Live, my friend. We are live.
What does that mean, Tom, that we're live? Tell me what
All right.
what
So
that
right
means.
now we are live streaming to my YouTube channel, my Facebook page, your Facebook page, my Twitter page, your Twitter page, and my LinkedIn. So we're live streaming across a whole bunch of different platforms right now, which is super cool, and I'm super excited about. And yeah, I think theoretically everything the proof is going to be in the pudding, right? So we may live stream this, and it hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties, but we may live stream this and find out that nobody on the internet could hear us well. But I think it's all going to work. I
Okay.
believe, I hope.
Well, let's dig into that. And I appreciate you going for it and trying it. But the reason we're doing this is there is a value in sharing content multiple places. And as me and you are both storytellers in different ways, like Tom does it through video, I do it through publishing, and then we both jump into these other platforms. So we understand, and anybody that's on here today, there is such a value in sharing your content on other platforms. You can share it. There are not people, the same people that see you on LinkedIn are not always on Facebook, are not always on this platform or that platform. So there's a huge value in sharing it other places. So let's meet some new people. Tom, go on. Let's see what Elizabeth is up to today. Let's see if she wants to jump on our live stream. Okay, we got AJ, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, welcome to the Clubhouse room. You know, it's Clubhouse podcasting, publishing, and social media. But today we're also live streaming. So, like Tom said, we could be on mute. We could be on mute in 50 places. But oh, I see somebody commented, we can hear you. So that's good stuff. Elizabeth, tell us where you're from for the people that don't know you. I know you, and I'm a fan. You'll have to check her out on Instagram too, because her Instagrams are the best. So, Elizabeth, thank you for being here today. What do you got going on?
Hi, Dominick. Thank you for bringing me up. I am originally from Switzerland, but I live on the beautiful island of Cyprus in the Eastern Mediterranean. And an author, I'm an NLP practitioner and a hypnotherapist, and the director of the Global Women Club Cyprus and New York. And I love being in your rooms because they are always so informative and supporting and very friendly, and not really that much going on these days. I try to fill my rooms for the Global Woman Club and do a little bit of writing, even though I actually feel a little lazy or unmotivated. Maybe I need some motivation here, so I'm here to support and to be supported today.
Well, Elizabeth, I am going to you. One of the ways to be motivated, is celebrate those wins. So I wanted to ask you, as somebody who's written a book and now is a successful podcaster, what advice would you give to somebody who hasn't taken that journey yet? I'm thinking about how far you've come. So, what advice would you give to somebody?
Well, it's just about doing it. It's about like I know so many people who say that they are writing a book or they have been writing a book, and then you meet them again 2 or 3 years later, and they are still writing that book. And I think you just have to do it. It's that's something that I always say. It's very important to be consistent, to work on something regularly, to set goals, and even if you don't always meet them, then you just have to postpone them, but set another goal. And I'm a bit of a list person. I make lists. I love to, check in the evening. Have I done this? Have I not done this? And if I haven't done this, I just put it on the list for the next day, because otherwise things they just dissolve. I strongly believe in what you focus on is what you find. What you focus on is what you manage to achieve. So just keep an eye on things, and just be persistent all the time. Keep going. And if it's not working the first time, then it will be working the second time. Just try another way. So yeah, yes, that's it. That's from me.
An inch by inch approach and make a list. So, We do not go anywhere. You're on our live stream today, so we're trying to. One of the things we believe in is sharing content on different platforms. So we appreciate you jumping on, and we always appreciate the inspiration you share. And I'm telling you, you got to check out her Instagram. I was a guest on your podcast, and you were so lovely and thought out. And I'm really thankful that you offered a guy from Pittsburgh a shot. So thank you very much.
I love my podcast. I keep saying it's like my third child because I started it I was going to write a book. I was going to write another book about my life as a tour guide, and then I ended up in some event where somebody was presenting, talking about podcasting, and I didn't really know much about podcasting. But then I realized that I love to talk. I love to write as well, but I love to talk, and as a hypnotherapist, I'm a good storyteller. So that's how I started my podcast, and I've actually uploaded episode 51 this week. And I loved having you as a guest, and I also loved the story about your mom and your trip in the car to see the Christmas lights. That was probably one of it's a very very memorable journey because my podcast is called Most Memorable Journeys. So yeah, whoever wants to start a podcast, do it. It's a lot of fun.
Elizabeth, thank you. We appreciate it. And thank you for, you pulled that story out of me about my mom and the Christmas lights. So it wasn't one that I was maybe even ready to share, but it was because of your interview style, how comfortable you made me feel that I shared that. So thank you very much. We need you. We're going to need you for some more advice here. So, okay, we're going to get to George. Tom, how are we doing here on the back channels? Are people hearing us? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing okay. So I got a message from Jonathan Howard here that I'm putting up on screen, and he said he can hear us on LinkedIn fine. So that's good. So it looks like we're moving in the right direction. I think it's working. If anybody who's in the room wants to pull up either my Facebook profile or Dom's Facebook profile or either one of our Twitter handles or me on LinkedIn or Talex Media on YouTube. If you guys want to check any of those channels or let us know if you're hearing any problems or issues or if we're coming through loud and clear, that'd be great. This is the inaugural voyage, the maiden voyage of live streaming this Clubhouse room out to multiple platforms, which I think is super fun. It's not something that I think a lot of people have done. I haven't heard about it being done very often. There's a little bit of technical issues to kind of get over. I know some people have been doing live streaming, but right now we're simultaneously streaming to 6 different places. So we're on YouTube. We're on 2 different Facebook channels. We're on 2 different Twitter channels. We're on LinkedIn. And next week we should be on a few more channels as well as we start to add them. But just really want to broaden the reach. Dom and I, we've both worked very hard to make this a really inclusive space for everyone, and to really help try to do our best to sort of embody, I think, the values that we share, in leading with value and really trying to provide the best value we can to our communities. And that's what this room is all about. That's what we do here every week is we give people an opportunity to share a tip, tell their story, ask a question, drop some knowledge. But overall, the whole goal, what we're doing here is trying to help everybody and raise everybody up and provide opportunity for everyone. So I'm super excited to broaden it out to a wider audience on multiple platforms. And just to use it to reach more people. I mean, I'm super excited. We've reached I think we had one day when we had 240 people or something come through the room. So for Clubhouse and Clubhouse terms, that's pretty solid reach. But yeah, I want to go bigger. I'm one of those people. I'm sort of never 100% satisfied, right? So I'm always like, okay, that was great. What can we do next? Right. That's kind of how my brain works. And so that's what we're doing. This is next. And then after this, we'll figure out a way to make it even bigger. But super appreciate everybody being in here today. You guys are along for a little bit of a ride, and we'll let you know if we have any questions. But for anybody else watching or listening on other platforms, like, feel free to hop in the chat. We'll be able to see your questions if you want to throw a question in the chat. Or if you want to hop over and join us on Clubhouse, where the name of the room is Clubhouse Podcasting, Publishing, and Social Media. And we do this every week, every Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We usually stay on. Today we're going to end the show, end the room at about 11 a.m. And that's usually our standard. We stay on a little bit longer when we have to, but today we're going to end at about 11. So that's all I got, Dom. I think we're cranking away and doing well. Looks like we got a bunch of folks coming into the room, which is super fun and exciting. If you guys are watching the video feed, you'll see me periodically kind of scroll through and show everybody that's in the room. So yeah, I'll hand it back to you, Dom. I'm going to ping some folks and see if we can get some more people to visit us. And that's it, man. That's it. Enjoy the ride. Thanks so much.
Okay. Hey, Tom, we appreciate you. We appreciate your tech savviness. And come on, the guy's been nominated for an Emmy multiple times. Of course, I'm going to ride his coattails when it comes to video. So I want to just dig into, like, this is Clubhouse Podcasting, Publishing, and Social Media. So I just want to touch on what Clubhouse is. So sometimes people might say at this point, oh, what's going on with this app over there? What are people talking about? I'm not going to try this platform because it's another form of social media. So one, it's a great place to network. It's a great place for community. It's a great place to meet new people. Everybody in this room right now, I met pretty much through Clubhouse, except for Tom. We were in a group with our dear friend Christopher Worth over COVID. That's how we met, where we meet Thursday nights and just kind of talk about what was going on when everybody was on lockdown, that kind of thing. And that's where me and Tom originally met. But is this place where you can just, if you want to go in a room and talk to people in Hollywood, you can do it. If you want to meet people like Elizabeth, you can go across the pond and meet her. So there are great people there, and you can go into Clubhouse and just listen. You can be working at your desk. You don't have to go up on a stage. Like, there's people in this room that you see right now that have no intention in coming up on stage. They're just here to listen. You can listen for 5 minutes. You can listen for 20 minutes. You can listen for an hour. And now Clubhouse even allows you to listen in replay form. You can go back to the show. So early on, some people were against Clubhouse because they thought it was single-use content, meaning if I go on this platform, you're going to do something for an hour and it will never be heard again. So now you are able to put replays on in your rooms and hear and search for other content. So, okay, next up, I've talked enough. I'm boring myself. So we got to get to George, who's never boring. He's a podcast star. He's out there doing it. George, what kind of tip George, you have any tips for us today? People starting out with their brand, with their podcast. And then if you have a question, as always, ask away, George.
Good morning, Dominick. I'm always glad to be in this room. I'm always glad to share anything that comes to mind for me. When it comes to to starting up your brand, audio really is the way to go. I remember seeing a few years ago, I believe, the Writer magazine said flat out, the future is in audio. And they were talking about podcasts and they were talking about audiobooks. And I don't think they knew just how much much Clubhouse was on the horizon. But man, I can't stress enough just how important this app has been for me, for my brand. Even though, like, the main thing that I really just need to do is I need to trust myself more that I have that I have a voice that I can really share as a room leader, as a room moderator, whatever. I feel that this app has given me nothing but confidence. It's helped me out with making so many connections that I never knew were possible. I've been able to listen to some really great episodes of my podcast. And I can't recommend enough people getting into podcasts because it really is just a wonderful, wonderful tool to share yourself and to do it. Like, I'm really proud of what I do. I introduce a lot of up and coming creatives to the world, and I give them a platform that they otherwise would not have had. And so it's something that I'm really, really proud of. The main thing that I need to work on is just marketing myself. But the fact that we're live streaming to all these different platforms, which I think is brilliant. I'm so glad that this has been able to happen. Working with getting involved on LinkedIn. That's a platform that I really feel like I need to really dig deep in and get as much out of. Because right now I feel like I'm not even scratching the surface on that. So there's a whole lot that's on the horizon with audio, and I'm so glad that you guys have been able to do this. And I really feel that anyone who has been even thinking about doing a podcast, just figure out what you want to talk about and know that there are a lot of people that are looking forward to hearing what you have to say. So that's my thoughts on the whole thing. And this is George, and for now I'm done.
George, man, thanks for being here. Thanks for the encouragement. And I love that. Figure out what you want to talk about and do it. So think about if you were passionate about, like there's people on the app that are passionate about cannabis. Talk about that. If it's basketball, talk about that. We got a gentleman who does across the pond sports, right? I always believe if there's something you are passionate about, get out. If it's cooking, we meet a lot of people in here, Tom, that have cooking shows, don't we? Or Nadej had her whiskey tasting that you were on with her. So you never know who you're going to meet. So you'll see me staring close to my screen here. I like to read people's bios. So on Clubhouse, people have a bio. In our room, we ask everybody if they want to come up because we consider ourselves equal opportunity, meaning if you got something to say, if you've sold 3.5 million books, yes, we'd love to have you. If you're thinking about writing a book, we'd love to have you. If you're a syndicated host, we want to have you. So we meet all kinds of new people. So Adil is somebody we're going to meet next. Adil, let's see what so I'm going to read his bio and let's see how good my eyesight is. So here we go. Let me tell you about him. So he's got a picture of him on a phone with a horse, and he's a wellness entrepreneur, TEDx polo. Maybe that's his polo horse. He's into philanthropy, art, and he's an Ableton DJ. Okay, entrepreneur. Seems like an interesting guy, so we better find out what he has going on. Okay, let's see here.
Thanks, Ron. And yeah, I think I must have ended up in this room because I'm a good friend of Ben's. I do listen to Ben's podcasts, which are great. And I was discussing with Ben, I think a week or two ago, the notion of being able to turn a replay from a dedicated Clubhouse room into a podcast or a series of podcasts, which is something I'm relatively interested in. I don't pretend to be especially good at that type of, that type of room or that type of audio experience, but that's something I wanted to do for my business, just to run some interesting podcasts on topics that relate to, rooms that relate to topics to do with my business. So I'm not sure if you discussed that at all in this room, that is using a replay as a podcast.
Let's do it, Tom. You can start off since you orchestrated this. Come on, this is your moment.
Yeah, man. I mean, so Adil, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. First of all, welcome. Glad to have you in here. And yeah, that's actually how this started. What we're doing here today, that's how this started. We started this with the idea of, I said to Dom, hey, we should take the replays and make a podcast out of it. And then that conversation morphed into, my video brain started going, and I was like, hey, if we're going to do a podcast, why not live stream the video to a bunch of different places, and then we can always pull that video and repackage and repurpose it. We can pull the audio out of that video, release it as a podcast. So we've got sort of we're creating a lot of opportunity for ways to repackage and repurpose this content across platform. And that's sort of like, that's my whole mantra, right? Is create content that drives value to your ideal audience and then repackage and repurpose that content across as many platforms as you can, right? And I think long form content is actually the best way to achieve that. And so that's what we're doing here with this longer form content. Like Dominick was talking about a couple of weeks ago, that was actually kind of what got me thinking. A couple of weeks ago in the room, Dominick was talking about how the YouTube algorithm really loves, and there was a whole conversation about how the YouTube algorithm really loves long content, right? And really tends to favor super long content. And most of the platforms tend to favor live content as well. And so like we're just trying to, and I'm not an algorithm wizard. I do not really understand how all the algorithms work and how to game that part of the system. But I do know that most of the platforms, including Facebook, still favors live content. And so that's what we're trying to do with this live stream. That's why we're telling everybody, up front, we're talking about it. We're being transparent. We want you guys to all know and be willing participants and supporters of this project as we live stream across all these platforms. So yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for that question. I just wanted to chime in too. Your friend and our friend Ben was chiming in on YouTube with a couple of comments, and he said, I'll just throw it up on screen for the people watching. He said, "Wow, this is awesome." Was his first comment, and I said thanks, and then he went on to say, "It sounds great, and the visual of the phone is awesome." Which is, so for people watching, what I've done is I've taken Club Deck, which I'm using on my computer here. And I've loaded up Club Deck, and I'm using Club Deck as a way to capture an image of the room, to capture audio from our Clubhouse room, and then rebroadcast that across platforms. So you can actually see there's an image on the screen with myself and Dominick of the people in the room. You can see who's talking at any given time, So Ben has given us great feedback. Super appreciate that, Ben, and Adil. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I feel like it's Adele. Say Adel. It's anything you want it to be. It's Adel. I want to get it right. That's what I want it to be. I want it to be correct. Adel. Okay. Well, I want it to be correct. So Adel, I appreciate that. Adel, thank you for being here. Thank you for the question. Dom, I'll throw it back to you.
Adel, you're up then. You got one more question? Make it happen. Hey.
Just an extension of what Tom was saying. If you have the screen, if you're using the screen as your visual on when you're putting the podcast onto YouTube or some other kind of visual channel, has anyone ever tried setting up a second camera or a camera? So you've got you're doing like a bit of a video mix. You have one camera on the host's face. You've got this screen, the second camera or a screen share, and you're just toggling between or switching between the two. So if like for example, Ben was doing a podcast and was hosting it, had the camera in space whenever he spoke, and then it just toggled, and then you just switch back to the Clubhouse screen or the Club Deck screen when someone else spoke. I mean, that can give it a little bit more animation, I think.
So, Adam, you should really check out, if you just look up, I think it was just look up Talex Media, is it the best way to talk on YouTube? But they have, sorry, you can say.
Yeah, it's just at my social media handle across everything is at Talex Media LLC.
Hey, Tom, Sid wants us to put, and this is good, we should have done it, so Sid knows his stuff. He wants us to put the link up in the top, put it to your channel up in the top. If not, message me and I'll put it over there. There's a thing called a back channel too, if you've never been on Clubhouse. So it's a great way to network. So anybody you're in these rooms with or connected with, you can send a message to them, and I can say, hey, Ben, you're really handsome. I love your profile picture. Or Sid, I've watched your last 30 reels on Instagram. You can do in these DMs like that. Oh, Lennis wants to know, Tom, are you using StreamYard?
We're using Restream. And one of the reasons I went through, and there's a story to this. So we went through a whole bunch of different channels, or I went through researching a whole bunch of different streamers and streaming software to try to figure out how to do this properly. And ultimately, like, obviously, I have my own social media channels. Dominick has his own social media channels, and I wanted it to be equitable and for both of us to be able to stream across our channels. And Restream has a feature called pairing that StreamYard does not offer, and they're basically, the cost for the plans was essentially the same. And I can tell you, it was a little bit over $400 for the year, just in the interest of transparency for the StreamYard or for the Restream account. But what that means is that I can stream to all of my channels. And then Dominick can also, and this is where we'll hopefully be next week, he'll be streaming to his YouTube channel, his Facebook, his LinkedIn, his Twitter, all of his channels as well. Right. So that's sort of the bonus, and why we picked Restream over StreamYard was because of that pairing option and the ability to stream across guests' channels. Because I'm hosting, Dominick is a guest on the stream, but he can stream it on all of his channels too. And that's why we chose that. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, good job, Tom. As always, one thing you know in this room, we try to move and get to as many people as we can. One, because I have a short attention span. Two, because Tom gives me dirty looks, and now we can see him actually giving dirty looks if we don't move fast enough. So we have our friend Ben. Ben, drop a tip as somebody blowing it up right now that started a podcast and is really scaling it fast, or just ask a question. The floor is yours, man. We always appreciate when you stop by.
Well, so I just put the link at the top. If you want to check it out, it does show Tom and Dominick and the phone all at once. So if you take a look at it, you can see it's cool, because I usually don't get to watch people while they're on the Clubhouse. So I love that about it. I don't know if I have anything to share besides you guys are all great. I love network with you. And Restream, I actually have a lifetime subscription to, so I don't have to pay for it. But I was just looking at the details of what mine includes. But that's those lifetime deals I love getting. I'm assuming I'm fitting into it. I'm Ben, and that's it.
Hey, Ben, good job. Thank you. And seriously, I do appreciate you. And the thing about Ben's show is he puts so much thought into the questions he's going to ask. And he asks really questions that other people aren't asking. And I want to give him credit because he had Carol Baskins from Tiger King on recently. And they had what we had known about her up until the point Ben interviewed her. So whatever you stand, I don't know where you stand on it, but I had one thought in my mind. But after Ben interviewed her and asked different questions, then I was completely taken aback. And now, just like anything in life, maybe there's two sides to the pillow and we should look at both sides. But Ben, well done on that. And we are going to cruise on around here. So you'll see, if like Tom's showing you the little faces, what we do is, this is a room. You can listen down below. And then if you feel to come up on stage and talk, ask a question or whatever, we'll pull you up. So Raphael reminded me, he said, hey, Tom, he said, the one thing, he said, YouTube likes longer form, but he said they don't like zero watches and zero views either. He said, so don't go crazy and think you're just gonna put your camera on and live stream you sleeping. Raphael, I wonder if anybody's live streamed themselves sleeping yet for 8 hours, and would anybody watch it? Like, what do they call that, Tom? My daughter's
ASMR. ASMR.
It could be somebody sleeping.
So, yeah, I would be willing to bet that if you searched somewhere on the internet, there is ASMR of someone snoring on camera. I would bet money that it exists. But I got that same message from Raphael. Totally appreciate that feedback. I just replied to him and I just said, I have almost no followers on YouTube because I'm 100% like the cobbler with no shoes, right? So I'm the video guy, the video expert who's all focused on other people's content and has historically like completely neglected my own. And so, so like it's sort of only up from here. I think my YouTube channel, because I've never really done anything with it, only has like 2 subscribers. And my personal account might be one of them. So like I just said, it's only up from here, right? And this is a little bit of an experiment. You never know until you try. And I think, it's one of those things that I repeat to myself in the back of my mind that really reminds me to say yes more often than I say no. And that's that the only way to guarantee that you will fail at something is to never try. Right. It's the only way to guarantee you're never going to you're going to fail at something. It's the only way. So it's the only way to guarantee that you will not succeed. So I like to try, and I'm a big fan of trying rather than rather than just giving up prematurely. So I have a question. We got a question from Sid, who's watching us on YouTube, and Ben echoed it. And so they want to know how we're doing the phone view. So basically I'll just explain it. And for anybody that uses this kind of stuff, hopefully they'll understand. But what we're doing is I'm using OBS, which is a free software. It's OBS literally stands for Open Broadcasting Software. So I'm using OBS to broadcast or to create. I've got a cutout of the phone screen. I cut the screen out, and then I have OBS grabbing the video feed from my desktop of the Club Deck app, and then I'm using that and streaming that out via Restream. And the sort of little hack that I learned with Restream there is I just have 2 different windows open for Restream, and that creates like sort of different feeds into Restream. So you can have, if you got a browser, you can have like 8 tabs open, and you could have 8 different feeds coming in of different things from your desktop and stuff like that. If you, if you're using software like OBS and other programs like that. So just a little thing there. And I also just wanted to shout out a friend of mine outside of Clubhouse, just came into the room a few minutes ago. Moira is here, and Moira is a superstar member of a mastermind group with me, and I'm super excited that she's here. So I just want to say hi to Moira. We'll get to you in a minute, Moira. We're working our way down, and I'm going to turn it back to Dom so that he can keep the room moving. You can tell this is not edited. The room moving like he does so well. So I'll give it back to you, Dom. Let's move it along.
Okay, let's see here. Well, at the same time as you operate this from a phone, so at the same time, my wife is doing tele-order to Giant Eagle, and she asked me, "Do I need anything special from the store? Is there anything you guys think I should add to our shopping list from Giant Eagle?" But anyway, let's move on. I guess that's not important. Clubhouse, podcasting, publishing, and social media. We do this every week, and this is our first live stream. So thanks for being part of it. There's a lot of questions about that too. So let's meet Jules. I was reading Jules' bio. Let me get up closer to it. Tom, you need to get me something so I don't have to get so close to the screen. Here we go. She's a publisher, an author, an artist, and a knowledge junkie. I'm in. Knowledge junkie. This is something I want to know more about. Jules, introduce yourself, ask a question, drop a tip. What do you got for us?
Hi, thanks so much for giving me some time here. So I'm very excited about what you guys are doing because I did not know this was possible. I actually own a media company that is now focused in the floral industry, so we're B2B, and our audience are florists across the U.S. and Canada, and our advertisers are flower growers in South America, Africa, California, various and manufacturers. So it's a very old company. I took it over last year. I acquired the brands last year, but it's a 125-year-old company. So it's kind of amazing how the longevity. Not many companies can say they're 125 years old. So I've been trying to figure out how to work Clubhouse into our mix. We have a very strong following on Instagram. Pretty good on it. We have about 61,000, and we're not trying to hit consumer numbers. This is B2B, so our numbers are really high for B2B. But we've got a really strong Instagram following. We've got about 30,000, I think, on YouTube, about 30,000 on Facebook. And we have a highly engaged community. Everyone knows the names, been around a long time. And I first came to Clubhouse because I had somebody that worked for me who said, you've got to get on this new social media. We got to be there. It's new, it's fresh. And we came on, we did a few shows, but we quickly realized that what we do is very niche. And so just doing Clubhouse wasn't really going to work for us. And so I kind of put it to the side. But now that you guys have cracked the code of, being able to restream to our other platforms, I'm very excited. But my question is, like, how challenging is this? Like, is this something that I could teach somebody in-house to do? If I had a producer doing it, like, how much would it cost to take our Clubhouse show and, kind of manage the production for us? If we were doing it like once a month, and if we had different guests, how that would work with video.
Tom, you want to hit that? First, I want to go to Tom. Think about the video aspect of it. But I know Sid's getting ready to go on a trip, an adult trip with his wife and some friends. Yeah, he's going to the Napa Valley or something. So you meet a lot of interesting people here. But where I wanted to go, Sid is one of the best, Jules, I think, on Clubhouse, of using Clubhouse as a resource, as a value add for his clients, for his tips, to get to know this guy. And I would ask Sid, how do you incorporate that with a business? And then I'm going to go back to you, Tom, for the tech aspect. Okay, Sid, if you can, I know you're busy packing suitcases, but if you can jump on, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, no worries, Dominick, and thank you for the kind words. Yes, we are headed on an adult weekend to the central coast of California, one country, late this afternoon. So with some friends. But Jules, I love the question. I was listening to you speak. I peeked at your profile. I've heard you talk about what you do in the past, and I truly believe that Clubhouse should be a strategic part of your marketing for your business. Now, you can choose to just do brand awareness here. You can choose to talk position content that drives people to your email list. You can try to sell things here. I mean, everything is possible here on Clubhouse. I think the important thing is understanding what it is that the people of Clubhouse will want from you. So for me, as I look at my content strategy, I have a content strategy. My strategy is all about focusing on entrepreneurs to help them grow and to help their business grow. Because as you grow as an entrepreneur, there's a direct correlation to the growth of your business. So we meet Mondays and Wednesdays at 7 a.m. Central Time. Consistency is key here. Monday and Wednesday at 7 a.m. Central Time for about an hour. And we have conversations about topics that are relevant to the journey of being an entrepreneur. And they range from, like, Monday, we're having a conversation about the 4 C's of Clubhouse content creation. And using Clubhouse as a tool. Then we talk about building teams. We talk about content strategies. We talk about social media. And you name it, if it's a part of the entrepreneur journey, we talk about it because it helps people. Today we talked about podcasting. A lot of entrepreneurs have podcasting. We talked especially about podcast marketing and how to grow your podcast through marketing and what were the best practices that people are doing. So what I would encourage you to do is to create and whatever your business is, how your business is structured, create a strategy, commit to what you're doing, and be consistent with it, and show up every week at the same time or every day at the same time so the community gets used to you being there. And it is absolutely A-okay to start tomorrow. And remember, there are times we're going to have 100 people in there. But then there are times you may only have 20. I think we only had 25 at the max today, which is fine. It's about building a brand, building loyalty, building connection, and really pushing your business forward. So, Jules, I hope that was helpful, but I would absolutely say you have to have a strategy.
Sid, thank you as always, Jules. I hope that helped. And I want just hit on something for the people that don't know Clubhouse yet, if this is your first time being exposed. If you came on and started a room with and you hadn't connected with anybody yet, and you started your room, you could go on and just start talking. But maybe nobody knows you yet, or nobody gets pinged because you haven't made connection. So there are times where I get on, and I've gotten on, and I started with 2 connections, 5 connections, and you have, like Sid's saying, the reality is there's times with 1 or 2 people in the room. Well, maybe those are some of the best conversations you've ever had, or some of the value where you decided, hey, we should take this off and connect in the DMs or have a cup of coffee together. So Sid's point is very valid. But Tom, do you want to touch on the tech aspect for Jules on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dom. So Jules, I think, is it difficult? From a technical point of view, honestly, it's not that hard. It's just a little complicated. It's a little bit more complex than than your average sort of live stream. And there are some moving parts. You have to have sort of separate audio feeds, and you have to use some extra software to kind of make the audio feeds work on your computer system, to get the audio out to Restream. So there's a little bit of sort of complicated stuff going on, if that makes sense. But it's not that hard, really. So could you teach somebody how to do it? I don't know. I don't know your technical proficiency. I could probably teach somebody and kind of walk somebody through the process, but I think they would need to have a sort of certain level of technical proficiency and understanding of how sort of streaming and video works. I like to sort of imagine it like plumbing, right? So I sort of imagine like I'm speaking into this microphone, and then the feed from the microphone is going through a pipe to Restream, and then also going to Club Deck, et cetera, et cetera. So like that's just kind of how my brain works. And I think about like how I'm sort of connecting the dots and creating sort of a flow chart that works across all the different platforms. But we could, you could teach somebody how to do it 100%. And if you are curious, I mean, like I said, I've already explained in broad terms how I'm doing it. I'm happy to connect. If you want to hit me up on the back channel, I'm happy to give you my email address. And just, we could connect later on there. We've got some weird feedback happening on my end. I don't know if you guys are hearing that. Went away. That was odd. Anyway, I'm happy to teach you how to do it, talk you through the steps, tell you exactly what we're doing. I'm not trying to hide anything. I just don't want to suck up all the oxygen in the room by yammering on about technical details, but it's definitely possible. I am not some kind of wizard. I just figured out how to do this by trial and error, so we could teach you for sure. I hope that helps.
Yes, well, I was wondering kind of if you were going to charge them to run something like what, I mean, I'm not going to push this, but like what would be just like
Yeah, Tom, we want that exact answer right now. I'm into this, Jules. Good question. How much, Tom? We want to know.
Honestly, I have no idea because I haven't. This is the inaugural trial maiden voyage, as you were, or if you will. So, like, yeah, I don't know. It really depends on man hours and the scope of work and how much you wanted us to sort of handle versus how much you guys were going to handle on your own. So could we figure that out? Absolutely. Do I have a round number for you? No. But it's it would be per episode. Like per time you did it, I would guess it would probably be somewhere in the $500 to $1,000 range per stream. And then if you wanted to take the content offline and repackage and repurpose it further, then that would be extra, obviously. But yeah, I mean that would be my guess. But don't hold me to that. That's a complete ballpark guesstimate, and I have no real idea of what it might be.
All right, great. Well, thank you. And I think perhaps I wasn't clear enough. We have a monthly magazine. So, I mean, my strategy would be focused around selling more subscriptions because we're all about selling the subscriptions and then giving our advertising partners an opportunity to show their product and tell their story. So, so that would be the purpose behind it.
Okay, Jules, thank you. It's quite an interesting undertaking. So if back channel, and I think, like Sid said, get that strategy together. And I think Clubhouse would definitely be something that would benefit you. All right, Tom, I am a publisher by day. I share inspiration 24/7. My goal is to share inspiration, positivity, and smiles. And I believe there's all these great ways to share your story. One of my authors who is incredible at it is she's out there always smiling across the globe. I see her on book tours, and Lennis Woods Mullins. And I would think Lennis would admit she started this journey somewhat late, but is killing it. So, Lennis, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe give a tip for the room or even ask a question? So, the floor is yours, Lennis.
Thanks, Dominic. Yes, I did start somewhat like 14 years ago at the age of 51, and now I'm 65. And I just wanted to answer the question about Clubhouse and how to use it. Clubhouse for me, and let me say real quickly, I am in a very niche market. I work with women over 40 with their mind, body, spirit wellness by teaching them about holistic practices, fitness, nutrition, and spiritual renewal. And I've been doing it exclusively online for 14 years. So when I first started 14 years ago, my demographic was not online like that. So I had to get really creative. Now it's much better, but back then it was not. And I have stayed very true to my niche. So my rooms are a lot smaller than some of the big rooms, but I'm fine with that because I'm not into vanity numbers. It's really about the quality of the numbers. And the people that are coming to my rooms, they know exactly what I'm going to be talking about, so I know already that they're interested. But I always try to craft my rooms to kind of gear towards whatever the free download that I'm offering to collect email addresses. And I have two goals. The first goal is to try to get their email address so I can build a further relationship with them, and to try to get them into my group. And I know that's working because when I started on Clubhouse about a year ago, I had in my group about 5,600 people. I just looked just now, and now I'm up to 13,700 women. 97% of them are women. There's some men in there sprinkled in there, here and there. And I know it's directly correlated to what's going on with me and Clubhouse. And once they get into the group, then I have ways to get their email addresses, and I've monetized the group. So now there's a premium membership for other coaches and other folks who want to advertise or promote what they're doing in that group. But I know it started with Clubhouse, and it started with the strategy that I have a download that's available to anyone that's interested in whatever, uh, knowing more about the tips that me and the co-mods are talking about, or I should say the co-mods and I are talking about. And that has really worked for me. I'm very intentional about it. I just don't have, and I'm very consistent. It's twice a week on Mondays and Tuesdays at 10:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then I might like co-mod other rooms and things like that, but those are the two rooms that I do myself. And then about once a month, I do something called the Empowerment Reset, which is wellness from an inspirational standpoint. And I have a lot of people on stage with me, and we share our favorite songs that empower us. And I have a live DJ on, and all of that kind of stuff. The music sounds really good. So that's once a month. And the goal of that room is really just to have fun, but to also maybe get in front of maybe a younger demographic that will be on their way to 40, that I can get their email addresses on and begin to put them in the funnel towards preparing for not being old, but preparing for really the best time of your life. For me, anyway. So I just wanted to say that you can definitely monetize. You have a strategy, and like Sid was saying, have an intent. If you're intentional about it and consistent. I'm complete.
Lennis, good stuff as always, and we can feel your smile coming through. Hey, just a question. Are you, as you try to skew the business younger, get some younger people in, are you on TikTok?
You know what, Dominic? I'm even struggling with doing reels. I don't know why. It's just no, I'm not yet, but I am going to start on it because I know that I will do well. Because whenever I do a reel on Instagram, I get thousands thousands of views. So it's just, I just haven't done it yet. I am so busy growing this. Well, I'm not even. I'm scaling the business now. I've actually hired a couple of coaches. It's gotten that busy, and so I just haven't done it. But now that you've asked me about it, Dominic, I'm going to say publicly, yes, I'm going
Yeah.
to TikTok this week, and I will let you know when I get on there. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens. Sometimes I've learned in this business, especially doing things online, you got to let go of this whole thing around perfection. It just isn't a match. Otherwise, you'll never put anything out. The beautiful thing about it is you can put it out, and if you don't like the way it looks, you can always delete it and do it again. But you got to at least put it out there and give it a try. I mean, like what you guys are doing today with the simulcast on our stream. I'm definitely going to do it. I'm going to do it next week. And who knows? And I don't have that many subscribers on YouTube. I have like about, I don't know, it's less than 1,000, about 800, 700 subscribers, or whatever. But I'm going to do it because I know I need to be on live on YouTube, and this is one way to leverage my time and kill two birds with one stone, and take care of my Clubhouse rings, and then be consistently on YouTube, twice a week. That's all I really need to get me to that 1,000 points. So I'm going to do it. So I'm so glad. Thanks for sending me text message, Dominic, my friend, to let me know about this room. This is great.
Lennis is in California and I'm in Pittsburgh. So sometimes I'll be excited about something and I have to wait till a certain time in the morning to text her. So I'll hear an interview where she just knocked it out of the park or something and want to say, Lennis, great job. But
No, Dominic, no, you don't have to wait because I get up every morning around 3 a.m. My work time is from 3 a.m. to about 2 p.m. every day. So I'm up early because I have East Coast customers. So go ahead and text me anytime.
you heard her. Okay. That's okay. This is where we reset the room, Tom. That's where we basically pull down the screen and people's faces move around, or if they're like Ben, they've changed outfits. You can change your profile picture. I had the same profile picture on this app for a long time, and I just decided to change it. So
Me,
let's
me
meet.
too. Me too.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. Someday, let's see if Tom by next. But then sometimes they say you should have your profile picture should be consistent on all these platforms so that people can find you. They recognize, hey, this is Ben on each one. I want to follow Ben on Instagram. Now I know the same picture, but maybe they're getting bored and they didn't like my picture of me with my Mallow Cup shirt on. Okay, let's meet Charlie. Charlie's an interesting guy who I met on Clubhouse, who John Jay introduced us, and John Jay is going to come up here. Hopefully, he's got time to stick around. We're going to get to him. But Charlie, ask a question, drop a tip. You see what's going on here, and we're glad you're in our streaming today. So, what say you?
Thank you. Well, I'm just going to drop a tip. You know, passion is important, and you have to believe in what you're doing. Because without doing that, you're not going to convince anybody else. So I took an unpopular topic. Um, my father said I'd never be able to get the media and the general public to get behind me. A pit bull charging a police officer on a busy city street while the police are trying to rescue a homeless man that was passed out in need of medical attention. You'll never get the story out. You'll never be able to get wings under it. It won't happen. Well, I did. And I now have more interaction on that Facebook page than the New York Post does. And that was my goal. I said, I want to get more interaction than the New York Post does. They have 4 million followers. I just have a little bit over 100,000. But get people interested and get them involved in the page. I know who my top fans are. I always include my audience. It's not about me. It's not about the dog I rescued. I want to give to my audience, and that really changes the algorithm because it gets shares and people participate. How many times I've tried to get a question answered on a social media platform by not even a A-list celebrity, just somebody that has some level of fame, and I cannot get a response, an acknowledgement, nothing. I decided that no matter how big the page gets, I will always interact with people. The other thing I want to say is there's 2 things that are important here. I worked for the Department of Corrections, and I sat down one day with a calculator during mealtime, and I figured out what my salary would accumulate for the next 20 years before I retired, but 17 years at the time. And I knew it would not cover the bills I had with family. And that need drove me to build a business from scratch that was multi-state and became a multi-million dollar business. That was a need. I didn't have a passion. I really didn't like that line of work, but I had a need. And when it came time to sell it, I was only too happy. But the passion was in the story that I have with rescuing this dog and the impact on with others. And it's on law enforcement today because of the graciousness of John J. Wiley put it up for others to enjoy, is that the passion changed everything. So to wrap this up, when me and my fiance created a children's book, we celebrated at home about the accomplishment. We became our first fans. So whatever you do, in my opinion, I don't give advice, I only give suggestions, please be your own fan. And if you only have one fan besides you, consider yourself lucky and build on that. Because you're going to have real people communicating with you and carrying the message, the mission statement, your product, and be enthusiastic about it. I can't tell people how often I'm enthusiastic about other people's accomplishments because the way it made me feel. And that's what people leave from any situation. How did something make them feel? I hear John Jay talk about it often. It's not about him. To him, the me, the I, out of it. And I'm learning, and Clubhouse has given me a really, really great opportunity to perfect or get better at communicating with people. I'm clear.
Charlie, man, you coming up here today and dropping the hammer as somebody that consumes inspiration and studies motivation 24/7. Love the message, man. You're I'm glad we connected. I'm actually secretively, Charlie let me read some of the book that he's writing, and the guy's really killing it. So I wish him all the best in that because he's got a story that the world needs to hear. Uh, John, I wanted to go to you since you introduced us to Charlie in the first place. Um, this not about you when it comes to media that Charlie touched on, and you've done this at such a high level. I watch your Instagram. I've connected with you on Facebook. Even Tom, I don't know if you know this. I sent a message the other day on a Sunday to John, and it's Super Bowl Sunday. Responds right back and says, "Let's jump on a call." He created a room, and we jumped on a call, and he gave me like just his time, and it was really special, and I'm thankful for it. But John, would you mind touching on this? It's not about you; it's about them. Or yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dominic. And this was drilled in my head in the early days of radio broadcasting. It's about your audience. It's always about your audience, and it's always about one listener, not 30,000, not 3,000, not 300,000. One listener. So whenever I start writing content, this applies to social media as well. Whenever I start my content with the thought of me, I, we, our team, I'm on the wrong track. I need to put my focus on what is in it for the person who's going to consume this content, whether it be audio, podcast, the radio show, the radio stations, or social media users. When I focus my attention on what's in it for them, what appeals to them, I do better. So it's really about one person around. And I was listening earlier, I'm sorry I didn't catch the was talk about frustration they have in Clubhouse. One thing I would say is it takes time. I think Dominick was referring to that, but you also have to collaborate with other people. Get people that have connections already. Get them to be part of your rooms, and notice who you bring into your rooms, and you give them a platform. Because again, it's not about you; it's about them. It's about the listener, the consumer. So content is king, and you'll get your point across, but also pay close attention to those people who are paying you in their rooms all the time and never come into yours. Because eventually you got to do some weeding out of who is helping you in your journey and who is just in it for themselves. So It's a great tool. And the last thing I'll say is this: think of Clubhouse as having your own access to your own talk radio show and podcast. With a club, you can do your own talk radio station. You develop a community, you get people involved that are looking for that kind of content, and you provide that content to them. With replays and web listening, now you have access to this as a 24/7, 365 marketing platform for you, your products, your guests, your advertisers, whoever it might be. But it takes collaboration and a lot of effort. And that's just my 2 cents on it. Thanks so much.
That's awesome. Awesome advice. Thanks, John, for sharing that. Always appreciate having you here in the room and you sharing your tips for everyone here. Really appreciate your input always. So I wanted to also kind of speak to what Charlie was talking about, what John just reacted to, that idea that it's all about the audience. And that's something that I definitely think about a lot in the work that I do. And one of the things that I'm constantly counseling clients to consider, that it really isn't about what you want to say. It's about what your audience wants or needs to hear, right? That should always be the focus, right? What you want to say is always going to come second to what your audience or your community wants or needs to hear. So the first step that I always take in content creation with my clients, it's the first step in legendeering. I'm actually doing a speaking engagement right after this virtually at 11:30 Eastern this morning with a not-for-profit group, not-for-profit organization for development officers. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is making sure that they're approaching content creation from the perspective of developing content that fills a value gap, that fills a need or a want for their audience, right? Because that, I think, is the key towards delivering content that actually drives relationship building, and that's ultimately what this is all about, right? So I appreciate that. I just wanted to echo it, and honestly, I can't think of anybody in the room who's better able to speak to that than my friend Moira, who's joining us all the way from Ireland this morning. Moira is a powerhouse. She is a public speaker. She teaches people how to earn a living as a public speaker, how to transfer, how to land speaking gigs, how to convert those speaking gigs into a way to earn a living, providing value to audiences all over the place. So Moira, the stage is yours. Why don't you speak to that? Speak to that. Thinking about what your audience needs or wants to hear, and let us know what you've got going on today. Thanks for being here.
Oh, you're welcome, Tom. Hi, everyone. Nice to be with you all here today from a wild and windy Donegal. It is literally blowing the biggest gale outside. I hope my internet doesn't go down today. But yeah, as Tom said, I discovered speaking about 7 or 8 years ago, trying to start my business from a small town with about 5,000 people and very little internet connection, and I stumbled upon an opportunity to speak, and I was just amazed at what I could do in 30 minutes of speaking that was taking me like 3 months to do online at the time. And what I even like when I think back, and I was just actually writing a Facebook post about this just now. I didn't have all the bells and whistles and all the fancy things when it came to speaking that day. And this is like one of my very first gigs, because I just knew I had a message that people needed to hear. And I really put so much time into how can I get them to feel like they can do this too. And I think too often people get on stage, and not just speakers, like I'm especially speaking to people who maybe are coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs who want to speak more, that they just want to give content as opposed to really painting a picture of possibility for people. And I think what I was able to do that day and why I did so well was I just used stories, because I honestly didn't really know what else to do, but I just told a whole lot of stories about who I was and how my business was working. And then by the time I got off stage, I got invited to speak at a big prestigious event in Ireland that was going to have 200 people. And by the way, my hand was shaking so profusely that day that I had to hold the microphone against my chin. There was no fancy like headsets or anything back then. But yeah, I think that when we get on stage, I think really I always imagine one person who's going to be in that room, and I always think to myself, how do I want to make them feel? How do I want to inspire them? What's a story that I could really help them with? What could help them have the biggest breakthrough? And that's another thing about speaking. I think that we forget that there's so many ways you can use speaking, but I'm particularly talking about speaking where you're gathering leads or that can potentially later turn into clients. That it's not about getting up there and delivering the presentation of your life, but it's like, what can you say that can create a breakthrough for people? That most people are only going to walk away with one or two things from that talk, but those one or two things can have the biggest impact on their businesses, on their lives, on their families. And yeah, going into those talks and really imagining that before you even get on stage has always really helped me, and it's something that I get my clients to really tune into as well, and not be so focused on what you're doing, but focus on who you're being when you get up on that stage and who you want to be for those people, because people want you to be successful because you're their hope. So that's what I would say to that, Tom. I could also talk about this all day.
Moira, you might see me going close to my screen here, and that is because you got yourself a new follower. So one of the things you can do is click on people's profile pictures and then look at most, if they have a good bio like Moira does, you can follow them on all their other social media platforms. So since the question I want to know, since you're a speaker up on stage, would you offer just a little tip for somebody who might be nervous jumping on Clubhouse or nervous sharing their story on a stage? What would you think is, you could be passionate, but what would that little tip you would offer be?
Yeah, absolutely, Dominic, and thanks for the follow. I also followed you. So I think it's really important to have at least one piece of content that you feel that you're good at. Like if it's a couple of points that you want to share about your topic, and I would have like maybe create 2 to 3 pieces of content, and then at every opportunity share those pieces of content, because you're not going to get good at speaking by just sitting in your room trying to practice yourself, but try and get good at 2 or 3 pieces of content. And if it's your own story and you want to perfect that, do that. But don't tell your story in a way that you want somebody to tell you whether that story is good enough or bad enough, or what you should do better. Share it and see what results you get. Do people follow you? Do people take action? Do people message you? And if nothing is happening, don't take it personal. Just say, okay, so what could I do better next time? And then just because that's just feedback. So even if it's not feedback, like physical feedback, if you're not getting any response, then you're saying, right, that's not really working. So choose 2 or 3 things, aim to get really good at them, and then if you think about it, most speakers don't actually have that much content. Like I spoke on the stage with Les Brown one time, and I mean I love this man to death. I think he's amazing, and I've heard him speak so many times, and it didn't matter. I heard him speak, and I was like, I've heard that story 25 times, and it still makes me cry, and I still love it. So I think that people who want to speak get obsessed with the content. I would get obsessed with a few pieces of content, a couple of good stories, and then share them over and over. And that will give you confidence. It will help you get better feedback. It will probably help you get clients, and it will also help you develop your speaking skills from there. And just don't overcomplicate it. And you know what? People are so lucky these days getting a chance to speak without being in public, because really at the moment, if we're not in a room, there is no public speaking. Like I'm sitting in my office here just holding my phone, or we're in a room and it's just like a pin. Like there is no public speaking anymore. So if you want to get good, now's your chance to do that. But again, I would just choose 2 or 3 things, then find loads of different audiences and share those things, gauge the reaction, and as you see people getting better, be interested enough and curious enough to say to people, what was it about what I said that moved you or made you want to reach out to me? And really pay attention to that. And after you do that a few times, then things will just start falling into place for you.
Awesome. I want to hop in here for a second, Dom, if I can. And I just want to hit on, I think that's amazing advice from Moira. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your expertise with the room. Super appreciate it. And appreciate you hopping on. The other thing I wanted to hit on was something that Moira mentioned, a word that she mentioned a few times. And I know Dom is aligned with me on this. And that is telling stories, right? And how important it is to tell stories and use storytelling as a way to convey information to your audience. And so I just want to hit on that because there is some really clear science behind why that is, right? And so I want to hit on that real quick. Like as somebody who considers themselves a storyteller, I know Dom is a storyteller, and I'm sure some other folks in here would think of themselves that way. They just want to hit on this real quick. So going back and looking at sort of the evolution of the human race and human civilization, anthropologists have researched this in depth, and they believe the sort of consensus among anthropologists is that storytelling played a crucial role in our evolution from sort of nomadic hunter gatherers who were all sort of doing the same thing but separately, to human beings that lived in cooperative societies, right, where individuals had individual jobs that all contributed to the overall good of the society and filled the needs of the group, right? And there's easy anecdotal evidence for this that all of us can relate to on some way or another. So I just want you to think about parables and myths that exist in societies all over the world and how they contain messages or morals, right? You hear that phrase, I'm sure, going back to, like, your younger days in school. What's the moral of the story, right? Thinking about the messages and the morals that those parables and those myths contained, and how they were used as teaching mechanisms to pass down lessons of how society works from generation to generation. So there is some argument that it is literally in our DNA, part of who we are, in our DNA, that we are predisposed to like stories, right? And that's why storytelling is such a powerful way to communicate with your audience, right? Stories are the best way to communicate with a group of people and communicate information, because as human beings, we are pre-programmed, predisposed to love hearing stories. And that's why they work so well. So I just wanted to throw that in and share that a little bit. I see a few people clapping. I appreciate it. Moira, did you have something else you wanted to chime in there?
Yeah, no, just like 100% is what you're saying, and I think that we forget that we're hardwired for stories, and then when we become speakers, we think about speaking. We think it needs to be this complicated thing when actually it's things that are happening around you all the time that are going to make great stories. It's just how we turn that into the business lesson or the messaging lesson that we have for our businesses. That's the part that we need to learn. The story stuff, we're already good at that.
Exactly. And to that point, like, I did a live video yesterday. I hopped on a live yesterday, used Restream for myself, like solo, and just hopped on and did a quick little live video yesterday because of a situation that came up. I just wanted to share the story of something that happened in a meeting I was in. And in that meeting, there was a conversation about content that I couldn't, because of the context of the meeting, I couldn't really interject into that conversation. But basically, it was two guys talking about how they felt that the Aflac commercials, and I'm sure everybody here is familiar with the Aflac duck, right? Aflac. So they felt that the Aflac commercials should have more information about the particular products and services that Aflac provides. And what I wanted to say, and I couldn't say, was absolutely not. 100% no. Right. And so the way I think of it is, what I talked about was handshake content, right? So we've all been to networking organization or networking events, and we've networked with other business professionals. And when you network with somebody, when you walk up to them, you put out your hand, you shake their hand, you introduce yourself, right? But you don't start listing your products and services and how much they cost, right? Nobody does that. That would be an insane way to talk to another human being, right? In a networking situation. Well, that first layer of content that you put out as a business or an organization should basically fill that same role. And that's what I wanted to tell these guys in the meeting that I couldn't get out. And so I had to get it out on a live video that I did right after. But I just wanted to reinforce that idea that, like, it's not about like, your content doesn't sell for you, right? Your content, especially your advertising and forward-facing public content, is a way to shake hands with your ideal audience, with your ideal customer, right? And then work from there to bring them into the fold. But so the Aflac advertising is actually super effective because it generates brand recognition. It's amusing. It makes people feel good about the brand. It makes them come across as a little bit playful, and then it encourages people to take the next step and reach out to Aflac and do a little bit more research, and then get on their website and get into a place where they can be converted from a sales perspective, right? But it should not be chock full of information. If you would never walk up to someone and say, I would never walk up to Dom and say, "Hey, how you doing, Dom? My name's Tom. I own Talex Media, write me a check for $5,000 and I'll make you a short video for your website, right? Like I would never do that. That's a crazy way to talk to people. But that's what a lot of the inclination and the instinct a lot of people have with their content is to do exactly that. And it's the wrong way to approach it. So I wanted to share that. Moira started, was talking about storytelling again, and we're on that topic, and I just made me think of that story, that experience I had yesterday that I wanted to share with everybody. So just another way to think about it. I think I'm going to hand it back to Dom because I feel like I've been talking forever. So I'm going to hand it back to Dom. Dom, why don't you keep us moving? I think Richard, unless your room is looking a little bit different than mine, I think.
Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got here. So interesting. On some people's screens, the bubbles or whatever profile pictures are in different orders. So then every once in a while you pull them down and things like that. So that's some a little Clubhouse chat for people. Let's see here. We have Brian P. Swift. Me and him do a couple rooms on Clubhouse where we share inspiration. We talk motivation. He's got a little green dot today. I know he's about to go do his radio show. So Brian, do you want to give a few tips on somebody that's going for it, that decided, well, here's the world I'm going to do, or I'm going to try a radio station? Just give us some tips for somebody that's thinking about, they haven't pulled the trigger and maybe now it's time.
Thank you, Dom, for the intro. My name is Brian P. Swift, aka the Clockfather. And a couple tips. Well, the first one, I'm speaking, since that's a part of what I do. And we talked about this, I believe, yesterday with Johnny quite a bit. Remember, nobody knows what you're going to say. Nobody has your speech in their hand. So I think a lot of the nervousness comes from putting an outline together or practicing and being afraid that you might not follow the script of the outline. And that's okay because nobody else knows that outline in your hand. So it's okay if you don't follow that outline and you're still able to perform an excellent speech. So that would be one tip. Remember, nobody knows what you're going to be saying. In terms of starting, I'm that ready, shoot, aim guy. Quick story: about 4 months ago, a friend came up to me and said there is a radio spot available on a local, very recognized radio program in the southwest suburbs outside of Chicago, Illinois. And it's been around for 90 years, and they have a spot open on Wednesdays. I've never done radio. I do speaking, and if you're interested in it, you're more than welcome to. I can pass on the information to talk to the station manager and whatnot. And so I did. I figured, what do I have to lose? So I called the station manager. We had a conversation. She sent me some information, and 2 weeks later, I'm pulling off my first radio show. So, was it perfect timing? No, it was never perfect timing. So whatever you're waiting, if you're waiting for a better time, there's no such animal. There's no such animal as a perfect time. And I believe somebody might have said this, might have been Linus. Don't strive for perfection, strive for progress. So progress over perfection. As long as you're moving forward, as long as you're getting better, as long as you're learning, you will get to that place you want. But there's no perfect time, and there's no way of being 100% prepared. You've got to go into it, yes, educated, yes, prepared, but you've got to go into it understanding that what's the worst that happens. Does it have anything to do with your health? No. Does it have anything to do with your bank account being empty? Probably not. Almost everything is repairable. And if you strike the right chords with the right people and continue to get better, everything's going to turn out wonderful. I am complete. Thanks, Dom, for the time.
Hey, Brian, thanks for the words of encouragement and the inspiration. And that reminds me something that I should have said earlier to the room. And if I haven't, just there's one thing about this Clubhouse. It's a great place to connect. We're all here for a reason. We may not always know what that reason is, but maybe it was to hear Linus. Maybe it was hear Brian. Maybe it was hear Charlie's story or George or Bill or Tom or Moira. So get in those DMs, listen to the replay, try to connect, have that virtual cup of coffee or real cup of coffee. Tom, don't you always hate it when you see? One thing I hate is when I see two people that I introduced because I knew them over social media or I met them through Clubhouse, and they actually meet face to face before I meet them face to face. I get so jealous. Anyway, well, that's just, I mean, I see it all the time, but it's a great place to connect. Let's meet. We're going to meet Richard and my brother Bill. So Richard, he always offers some great tips. So Richard, what do you got going on today, my friend? Small business advisor. That's what Richard Sting says. And sometimes people, what happens is they may be like, you'll see me here. I may have been typing. I got two computers here, so I could have been on the other computer. I could have been sending a text to somebody. I could have been doing my grocery list like you saw earlier today. Brother Bill, that means we're up to you, my friend Bill. What kind of, as a guy who's sold a lot of books, he's coached a lot of people, what kind of tips would you give us today to put our story out to the world?
Yeah, thanks. It's Bill, brainsports.coach, and my most important thing that I'm studying and really manifesting is neuroscience and the practicality of, where do we begin? We start from inside of ourselves, and I want to connect to what Moira and Tom and the storytelling aspect, because the amount of deep work that we've done will permeate what you do. So the amount that you've become the person, you've become the thing that you want to convey, then the more gravitas you have, the more you pull people in. And so it's funny because Moira, being from Ireland, I don't know, my brain started spinning out of control, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember when I first saw Braveheart, which is a Scottish thing, but they're Irish people. So all right, well anyway, I am mostly kind of Scotch-Irish, in between, strangely enough, between Braveheart and Highlander, I started to sort of get in touch with the English roots and culture of which I've been born. And bear with me because I want to take this a little further because there's a really interesting connection between language and culture. So when it comes to storytelling, you have the iconic stories of your people and your origins. And so I'm trying to my own self be true, and it must follow as the day, the night, thou canst not be false to any man. Farewell, my blessing season is in thee. And so when we sort of get to know ourselves and we understand our own culture and the stories that resonate with us and the why do they resonate with us, then we can start to tell those stories out to other people and find those with whom they will also resonate. So I believe a lot of the brokenness of the world is because people aren't in touch with their own culture. And then because of that, they're also not speaking from a place of knowing who they are. And then because of that, then they're also not able to sort of code switch appropriately at the right time. So bottom line being, know why you're telling your stories, know who you are, know how you differ from other people, and find those places of tension, and you'll create some pretty compelling conversations. And I will close out there. Thank you.
Hey, Bill, man, spectacular share. And I just want to note this is absolutely the first time anybody has ever shared Hamlet in our. Is that it, Bill? Was that you said Hamlet you shared there? But
Yeah, that's the first scene in Hamlet. Yeah.
okay, the one it makes me feel like I need to do some more reading so that I know this epic line that Bill shared. But this thought of be the thing that you want to become. That's a great title for you, Bill. If you're writing a book, steal that right. I'm giving it to Bill right now. Be the thing, man. That's powerful stuff. So, Bill, thank you for being here as always. We appreciate you, my man. Okay, let's go here.
Thanks, Tom. I want to follow up really quick, just very quickly.
Have at it, man.
That title is people might then think about 1950s science fiction movies.
I'm gonna do. It'll be the. Go. Is that bad, Brian? That might be cool.
True. I think, visualization is crazy important in life, in athletics, in business, it's giving speeches. You got to see yourself up there. You got to see yourself nailing it. You got to see the crowd standing. You've got to believe all that. I 100% believe.
And I want to thank Brian because a couple of weeks ago, I shared my frustration, and then I took Brian's advice of, understanding why my attitude was holding me back. And then it's really interesting because everything I'm doing now is surging. I'm getting a lot more reviews. My book sales are up 25%. A lot of people off. Thank you, Brian.
Good.
Bill, thanks for the kind words. Well, sorry to cut you off, Don, but I'm in a wheelchair and it's bigger than yours.
You got the green dot, Brian. That means you do whatever the heck you want, man.
No, thank you, Bill, for that. And these groups are awesome because we learn from each other. And I've learned from everybody here. I've been in the rooms with almost, I think, everybody here. So it is, as Dom says, it is a very free place to feel safe. It's a safe place to come and share your wisdom or lack of, or ask questions. And I believe that's hard to find in a lot of groups, not just on Clubhouse, but out there just in the world. So this is one of those places, as Dom says, you can feel safe here. So thanks for providing that, Dom.
Oh man, I appreciate you saying that. And one of the things that me, Tom, and everybody in this group has done, and we're thankful to each of you for steering the conversation, making it organic, but also being supportive of anybody who comes in here. And our friend Neil, who's not around, Neil taught me, hey, Neil, when he was hosting rooms, he'd just kick somebody out if they were coming in and being negative and things like that. And so that is something that we don't go for here. We're all trying to learn. I'm actually taking notes. So you see me over here. I'm taking notes. On this side, I'm on the computer. On this side, I'm on the computer. So if I look funny or if I'm staring down, that's part of what you can do on Clubhouse as well. You can be on this app and be doing other things. You can still be working. You can still be productive, and you can be networking at the same time. Okay, Jocelyn, I follow her. She was in the room. Then we missed her. Now she's back. So Jocelyn. That's what I want to say, Tom. Jocelyn,
Hi, Dominick.
Introduce yourself, drop a tip, ask a question.
I'm Jocelyn, and I'm a female Asian stand-up comedian from Los Angeles, California. And question about podcasting. I did a show where they record their podcasts on site, and I was just curious about that because from what it looked like, all they had was some type of like device that the microphones were plugged into, and then two microphones, and then they actually had that plugged into a speaker, and then that was like their setup. And is that like the basics that you would need if you were going to do a podcast, like if you were going to travel and do a podcast? Is that all you need, and are there other things that you should invest in? Because I'm considering doing some traveling to meet up with comedians I connect on Clubhouse to meet them in real life. and then interview them and find out their story. So I'm just curious as to what a travel podcast kit would look like.
Tom, I have some thoughts, but I want to hit you first on that. You and George, maybe you from a podcaster's mind.
I can definitely chime in on that. I recently just got myself kind of like my own little portable setup for podcasting. One of them, the most valuable tool that I've added to my podcast arsenal is the Zoom PodTrack P4. It's fabulous. It goes for about like $200. And it's got like a SD card slot in there, so you can record right then and there. If you have like an intro and an outro, you can program those into one of the 4 sound buttons that the sound pads that it comes with. You can plug in your headphones. You can plug in like your microphone. It's got 4 different XLR ports. It is terrific, and they also have like a Zoom podcast set. I think it's like the ZD4 or something like that, I think. But it's simply like a tabletop microphone, XLR microphone with a set of headphones. And I would say, get yourself like 2 of those sets. Like they come out for like, if you're looking to like up the quality of the show and everything, like, getting 2 of those sets will cost you like a little over $100 each. The PodTrack P4 is about 200. I know this sounds like a Zoom commercial, considering everything is Zoom products, but at the same time, I stand by them. I love them. I think they're great quality, and they've been nothing but good to me. If you want to just get one microphone, and you can set it up right in between yourself and your subject that you're interviewing. If they have earbuds that they can bring in, you can plug those into one of the 4 headphone jacks that's there on the P4. It's fabulous. I really, really recommend that. And you can just plug in the finished version, like the recorded version that you have, into say like Audacity, which is free editing software, and you can go ahead and take out any of the filler words or any dead space or anything like that to really tighten it up and make it sound more professional. And if you like, you can even go ahead and add in your intro and outro there. So I strongly recommend doing that. It sounds like what you got there is a really good idea.
And then, so the software, is that free, or is there one that you could pay for? Because I know it's one time that this guy Baca, he produces shows like every day of the week, and it's a different location. And a couple of the locations, he has a group that comes through and they do a podcast on site. And I remember one time I went, and the first time I was on the podcast, they had a laptop where you can see like the levels, so you knew if you were like screaming into the mic and stuff like that. So like, how much would that software one, and if there's anything you would recommend?
George, give us a cost on that, and then we're gonna tackle a couple of things. So, what do you think a cost would be, and then I'll go low end on it.
Well, what you can do is regarding like the levels, you can go ahead and monitor the levels themselves on the P4. It's got dials for both your headphones and your microphones, so you can do that on site. When you're doing the actual editing, you can also go ahead and like normalize and equalize and everything using Audacity, and it's a software that I firmly stand behind. I use that for my audiobooks. I use it for my podcasting, and it's free. It's free. It's
Mac
very
or
user friendly.
PC?
So
Or it goes
both.
for both.
It's available for
Okay.
both. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Hey, thank Jocelyn George. Thanks for answering that. Jocelyn, I want to say that for anybody just beginning, let's go back to the just beginning here. If you're starting to, you can take the levels up as you go. If you look, I have a YouTube channel, Motivation Champs, and we film it. Now, I film some of it with a camera like this. Other videos, I hold my phone. My son holds this camera. We got our little mic on the side, not too fancy. And for voice, we're using lapel mics. I hold a lapel mic like this when I'm interviewing somebody. I hold it right in front of them. So if you're just listening, I have a little lapel mic and I put it out in front of me and say both people talk into it back and forth. Hey, we have not met Stephanie. So last one of the day of our first live stream. We appreciate everybody who jumped up here today, who came on. We're going to meet Stephanie, and then we're going to take us out with a couple final thoughts. So, Stephanie, ask a question, drop a tip. We are glad you are here.
Hi, Dominic. Thank you so much for bringing me up on stage. My name is Stephanie. I'm a realtor here in Los Angeles, California, primarily Long Beach, California. And I was just listening in. I have my own podcast. It's called Steph Sells Homes Podcast, and I just started it. I'm like 10 episodes in, and I was just taking notes as you guys were speaking. I'm in the process of learning and refining my process, and so that's kind of why I came into the room. I love the title. It's something that I'm currently living, and so I'm here to learn more about this space. Because I do enjoy it, but we all need to have good systems in place in order for me to be able to scale this, right? And obviously get better at it as we come along. So thank you guys for all the tips.
Stephanie, thank you for being here. When you say nice things, I'm going to push. I'm going to get close to my screen here. Click on her. I push follow. I'm never afraid to connect. I love to connect with people and follow. So anybody, send me a DM, send Tom a DM. We're always like Brian, anybody, Bill, whoever's in Moira now, Lennis, George, whoever's in the room. I know they'd love to connect and make real relationships. This is our first. This is our first where we streamed it live, and I want to take us out like this and just share with you that by day I'm a publisher, and so I believe in the book. I want you to hold it close to your heart. I want you to write books. I want you to share your story like that. Yeah, that's great. But there are so many valuable ways to share your story. Get out there by whatever means necessary. You have a story that will make a difference, that can help other people. So get out there by whatever means necessary and share that story. If you want to write a book, okay, do it. If you want to start a podcast, do it. If you want to scream with a megaphone and share your story, do it that way. But just make sure you get out there and share your story. Your story is going to be, it could be someone else's survival guide. So get out there and share it by whatever means necessary. Clubhouse, podcasting, publish it, or social media. Share it all those ways. Tom, take us home, brother. I love you, man. Well done. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tom.
All right. And that's it, Dom. We're going to end the live here. Thanks so much for your time again this week, buddy. Appreciate it as always. See everybody